did Amber Heard seriously just defame Johnny all over again? Plus, can Johnny actually do anything about it in terms of suing her all over again, or even just in terms of getting her to stop? Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Pluto and I am a lawyer based in Australia who's been covering Johnny's cases both in the UK and Virginia for over 2 years at this point. For today's video, we're going to be looking at whether Amber Heard can get herself or has already gotten herself into further legal trouble with Johnny Depp over her recent interview with Savannah Guthrie. As of the day of filming, the 15th of June here in Australia, we're kind of an entire day ahead of you in the rest of the world. Only part 1 has been released, so I will be making separate videos for the other parts. I believe it's a 3-part interview as they are released. All right, without any further ado, let's get started.
Do you stand by your testimony and your accusations against Johnny Depp about abuse?
Of course, to my dying day, will stand by every word of my testimony.
Count 1, if you ask me. Count 1 of a defamatory statement. The jury has unanimously found, as we all know, that all 3 of her statements made in the op-ed were defamatory. And yet here she is repeating the very gist of these 3 statements. So count 1.
You think the jury saw it?
How could they not? I think even the most well-intentioned juror, it would have been impossible to avoid this.
So here is Amber parroting what her lawyer, Elaine, said a couple of weeks ago by now, which is, how could the jury not have seen everything that played out on social media during the trial? Sure, there was a trial by social media. I'm not going to dispute that. But the jury were not privy to that. They took an oath. The jury system exists for a reason. And you know what? Social media has been around since I was a child. I'm now in my 20s. It's been around for a very long time, and jury trials have been successfully able to run without social media being this catch-all reason to declare a mistrial. I think she's definitely going to be using this entire trial by social media argument as one of her grounds of appeal, by the way. And yes, the jury were not sequestered, which means they weren't isolated. They weren't in a controlled environment throughout the course of the trial. For example, in a hotel room. They actually went home every night. They still had access to their friends, their family, their phones, technology, the TV. And I get that. I do almost wish they were sequestered so that she would have a lot less chance of, successfully arguing that this was a mistrial and that they were obviously biased and influenced. But the reality is they took an oath. Not all juries are sequestered. There's a reason that the court has a non-sequestered jury option anyway. And believe it or not, people, especially when they're in these situations of being jury members, first of all, they're carefully selected, and both legal teams are involved in selecting them. It's not like Elaine and Amber's camp didn't have a say. They were very carefully vetted. Furthermore, most jury members actually want to do the right thing. It's a very serious thing to be involved with, and they understand the gravity of it all. I understand it's hard for people to imagine that the jury was not tempted for 6 entire weeks and then there was that long break in between. But they took an oath and they're not Amber Heard. They most likely stuck to their oath. I think she's projecting here. I think she's telling the world that I would have looked at social media. I mean, there's already talk that she has been looking at social media while she was still testifying. So when she was still under oath as a witness, because she kept responding to things and bringing up things that were making the rounds on social media, like the fact that she wasn't actually crying. So from where I'm sitting, she's projecting, because as a jury member, she probably would have done just that.
There was another trial. My evidence was largely kept out.
Just a hint here, another grounds of appeal. She's most likely going to argue abuse of judicial discretion. So basically that the judge wrongly excluded evidence.
Some evidence is admissible in a UK court that is not admissible in a US court.
I want to say that I think Savannah actually did a really good job in this interview. Obviously, I've watched it before, and she did not ask Amber easy questions. It wasn't another Oprah and Meghan and Harry fiasco of, oh yeah, just tell me everything and I'm not going to challenge your ridiculous allegations. So kudos to Savannah for doing that. And I quickly want to say that, yes, as someone who has covered the UK trial extensively, all the videos are still up. I know that the UK trial is making the rounds now, But do check out my channel, Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard playlist, if you want to know everything there is to know about the UK trial. But essentially, Savannah was right. That judicial system is so entirely different to the US. Never mind what I've stated repeatedly over the past week or so, which is she was never the defendant in that case. I could go on about the differences, and again, I have a video specifically dedicated to discussing these differences. So all in all, it's just not comparable.
The First Amendment protects free speech. It doesn't protect lies that amount to defamation.
Brownie points for Savannah. Thank you. Exactly. Freedom of speech doesn't protect liars. If it did, then defamation as a cause of action would not exist. She's mischaracterizing what the First Amendment is all about. In fact, the anti-SLAPP statute in Virginia specifically states that this protection afforded by the First Amendment does not apply to any statements made with actual malice. The jury found that she made all three statements with actual malice and found that it was so bad that they wanted her to pay $5 million in punitive damages, which, as we all know, Virginia has a cap of $350,000, so that was vastly reduced and brought down to that. But what matters is the jury awarded that huge amount because they thought it was that bad.
It's a freedom to speak truth to power.
So she brings up this concept of truth to power, which, to be honest, I hadn't heard of before, so I had to quickly look into what it means. Turns out it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's essentially when you stand up to corrupt entities of power, like governments, for example. You speak out against abuse. You speak out against things that are wrong. That's what she's trying to say that she's doing, because the op-ed was masked in that way. That was the gist of it, right? That she was standing up to institutions that protect abusive men who happen to be in positions of power. So this is count 2. She is once again repeating the notion that what she did was speak the truth against men like Johnny Depp, abusive men that are protected by these corrupt institutions.
But truth is the word.
Yes.
And that was the issue.
And there goes Savannah again. Good job. But this is the whole point, right? The truth. That was the point of contention here. And the jury found that there was nothing true about her statement. Or at least on balance, the jury found that the statements were more likely to be false than substantially true. And yet here she is in defiance of that finding. And not only that, essentially repeating her defamatory statements, which is that what I said was true. Johnny Depp committed all of these horrific things against me.
The Depp team argued that you were the abuser.
I never had to instigate it. I responded to it.
Count 3. This is Amber Heard directly, not even implicitly, explicitly telling the world that Johnny instigated it every single time. Because she never said, yeah, there were times where I instigated it. No, it's a flat out, I never had to instigate it. I only reacted to it. Where are her lawyers?
What you would hear in those clips are not evidence of what was happening. It was evidence of a negotiation.
But you're testifying and you're just telling me today I never started a physical fight, and here you are on tape saying you did.
Claps for Savannah, applause for these questions. It's so good to see an actual reporter asking actual questions, because I feel like with celebrities, that's a thing of the past now, and you just go along with whatever narrative they want. But bravo, point out to her how ridiculous her lies are.
As I testified on the stand about this, is that when your life is at risk, when you're in an abusive dynamic psychologically, emotionally, and physically,
your life is at risk, and mental and physical abuse. So she has stuck by her allegations. As she said, she said, as I said on the stand, as I testified to, she is repeating her allegations in this very interview. And she's telling us, she's trying to convince us and Savannah that was her negotiating with her abuser.
There's another tape where you're taunting him and saying, oh, tell the world, Johnny Depp, I, a man, am a victim of domestic violence.
20-second clips or the transcripts of them are not representative of even the 2 hours or the 3 hours that those clips are excerpt from.
Out of context. That's her response to all of the recordings, by the way. It's either completely taken out of context, edited. I mean, they were so unedited that you can hear Johnny playing guitar while she leaves during a certain argument. And he also falls asleep and snores. You can hear him falling asleep. If they were edited, that would have been removed. But again, she's sticking to her allegations. She is repeating her allegations, her defamatory allegations.
He
And
says
it
he
doesn't-
never hit you.
He can't-
Never. Is
Yeah.
that a lie?
Yes, it is.
Count 5. I think I haven't lost count. Have I lost count? Are we in count 6? My jaw just dropped because I must have not been paying attention the first time I watched this while I was making coffee. My goodness. She literally, yeah, count 5 or count 6. Another defamatory statement. She accused him of lying about never hitting her.
I've seen firsthand how people will file rank and support the person they depend on.
Did they all come in and lie in court?
I'm here to just kind of talk about it from what it felt like for me as the person who sat there.
So this is her way of maybe avoiding further defamation claims made by the witnesses, because she's saying, I'm not calling them liars, but in my opinion, from where I sat, from my point of view, they weren't telling the truth, and they were just saying what their boss wanted them to say because they were all on the payroll. Never mind that Ben King, the property manager, Keenan Wyatt, the audio engineer, Kate Moss, the billionaire supermodel who's been a supermodel before I was born, and she's a rando apparently. Morgan Knight, Morgan Tremaine, I mean, the list goes on.
You know, I made a lot of mistakes, but I've always told the truth.
But I've always told the truth. I'm not necessarily going to add this as a new count because this is a repetitive one where she said before in the interview that she has told the truth, and therefore, her speech should be protected on the principle of truth to power or whatever she's claiming. But she is very much defiant and is insisting that her allegations against Johnny are true, which is defamatory, as has been found by a unanimous jury exactly 2 weeks ago. Interestingly, I noticed that the photos of her disembarking the private jet showed her wearing the exact same outfit. So clearly she was either on her way to making this interview or coming back from. I do wonder whether the network paid for her private jet, or whether, she insisted basically that they send her a private jet, or whether some other benefactor is behind all of this. I did also mention that I would briefly talk about whether Johnny can stop her from making these statements and from giving interviews where she repeats her defamatory allegations. The option he has to stop her from doing this is to file for an injunction, which I have mentioned briefly in a previous video. So I'm sure after this interview, Johnny's already convening with his team and considering their options on what to do about this. I think an injunction or seeking an injunction would be a step along the way before jumping or resorting all the way to another defamation claim. But yeah, it is a viable option. It's going to be interesting to see what Johnny decides to do next. I wonder if she's pushing for a settlement, some kind of a negotiation where I'll stop talking about you and I'll stop doing this if you waive the $8.35 million that I owe you in damages. I'll even drop the appeal if you waive the $8.35 million. I don't know. I think it's way beyond the money for her. I think she's just so mentally unhinged and so far deep in her hoax and in her lies that she just can't let go. It's like Camille said multiple times. She's just in too deep. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you found this informative, and I will catch you in the next one.